breaking major news tonight on the Ingraham Angle with an exclusive interview. Believe it or not, Jennifer Flowers joins us live for her first interview in years. She has a new bombshell allegation against Bill Clinton. You're not going to want to miss this. Plus, President Trump makes a statement by celebrating the nation instead of the National Football League. But first, we have big breaking news from Capitol Hill tonight on two fronts. Former FBI Director Andrew McCabe is reportedly asking for immunity before he offers testimony to the Senate Judiciary Committee. Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley wants McCabe, former FBI Chief Jim Comey, and former Attorney General Loretta Lynch to testify when the IG report on the Hillary Clinton email investigation is finally released. On a separate front, Fox News Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge is reporting this. A lawmaker telling her that FBI espionage chief Bill Priestap, who oversaw the Russia and Clinton probes, has been very cooperative with congressional investigators. Priestap was also the supervisor of FBI agent Peter Strzok, who bashed President Trump, of course, remember, in several texts. The source says that Strzok played an even larger role than we thought initially in the Clinton email probe and the Russia investigations. Let's discuss all of this now with Congressman Ron DeSantis, a member of the House and Judiciary Committees, House Oversight and Judiciary Committees, Democratic strategist Richard Goodstein, and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Robert Driscoll. Gentlemen, it's great to see all of you. Big breaking news tonight. Congressman DeSantis, where do we begin? Let's start with this immunity plea for McCabe. Every time you hear someone who's like connected with Trump said might want immunity, it's like, oh my God, you want immunity, you must be guilty. But what's going on here?
Well, look, I mean, James Comey said Andrew McCabe stood tall, was just this model leader, and now he wants immunity because he knows he's in jeopardy with his conduct over this investigation, both the Clinton and the Trump investigation. I would not give him immunity. I would make him go. If he's going to plead the Fifth Amendment, then he should plead the Fifth Amendment. But the idea that he should get some type of get-out-of-jail-free card for this is not something I think the American people would want to see.
Richard.
So the president said in tweets about McCabe, lied. He personally called McCabe's wife a loser, right? That's a classy move.
Richard, we're talking. Let's keep
I'm
it
just
focused.
saying.
We have very limited time. I want to keep this focused.
But the point is,
on the
why should
former
McCabe...
Deputy Attorney General wanting immunity.
Yeah.
If he has nothing to hide, if he was above board, if he had permission to release information to the media, why is he asking for immunity? That's what you guys do to the Trump people,
And I'm saying that last sentence, when the president asked for the Fifth Amendment, please, what you just said, bring that back. Look, the reason is...
When is the president asking for the Fifth Amendment?
Well, everybody seems to suggest that might be an Look, here's the answer on McCabe.
Everybody.
If you've got a president who issues pardons willy-nilly, has no qualms about asking the Justice Department to go after somebody. So McCabe would be out of his mind not to seek immunity when you've got somebody at the top of the, basically, who oversees the Justice Department.
His own lawyer is saying he's concerned about his client being prosecuted.
He should be concerned when you got the president going after people like crazy.
But this is a...
Right?
This is a criminal referral, though, that was made by the Inspector General. I mean, the Inspector General laid the predicate for this, did he not, Richard? I mean, I get it that you don't like Trump. I get it, and that's fine. It's a big nation. I'm glad we have all opinions on the show. But this is someone who, a nonpartisan, consummate professional Inspector General, called his credibility and his basically said he was prevaricating, to put it very kindly, in dealing with the media.
Right.
And now he's been asked to testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Right. Robert, you can chime in. You got a lot of experience on this, and he wants immunity. I mean, that's not the first time someone's asked for immunity, but this is a wild series of developments we've had with a former deputy FBI director.
Well, it's a smart move by his lawyer, because if he gets immunity from judiciary, then he's free from prosecution by DOJ. And so you'd rather have a day of embarrassment before a committee than, do time. But I think it's always a trade-off between transparency and justice when congressional committees and DOJ are deciding whether or not to grant immunity. I mean, the benefit to immunity would be he would testify on national TV with no ability to plead the Fifth and would have to say everything he knows, and everyone would hear it. And I think Chairman Grassley would have to weigh that against waiting to see what happens in the DOJ prosecution, which will take additional months.
I think also, does he have evidence? I mean, there's at least some reports suggesting that he may have affirmative evidence that Comey did know about this leak that McCabe has gotten nailed for. Comey said, no, he didn't authorize that. So if he was producing something like that, that may be one reason
why. But he
why
always backs up Comey, right? He's always backs up Comey when Comey.
I think their interests are diverging
now. They are. But before, when the Trump conversation with Comey at the White House, and he basically said, yeah, well, Comey basically said to me what he put in his memo to the file. So they obviously were very tight.
On the leak, he said Comey approved it, and Comey said he didn't approve it. Yeah. So they're in direct contradiction on that.
Yeah, so they've diverged. Let's move on to the IG report. Then we want to go back to another Strzok issue. This IG report, the president obviously very frustrated. Again, I wouldn't be tweeting about why it's delayed, but that's, the president is going to tweet. As he's the president, he's going to tweet. But on the issue of the IG report, why do you think this is delayed? We keep hearing it's going to be out any day.
That's the problem, Laura. Like, we have a bureaucracy that is just not accountable to anybody. So we had all these major problems, and the Democrats are actually the ones that wanted this report initially. So in order to hold people accountable, if it takes a year and a half to conduct an investigation, then it's just not the way it's going. So I'd say that just the time.
Well, what's
is just
the point?
Too much.
Like, you need a speedy trial. You need a speedy resolution.
Exactly.
I mean, and then it's 500 pages. However, Robert Driscoll, I want to get back to Richard too, but Robert, could the McCabe request for immunity have some relevance here in this delay in the Inspector General report?
No, I think people are overblowing the delay. I mean, I've represented people in this situation. When the report's done, everybody who represents someone who's been interviewed in that report gets their little chunk of the report that mentions their client, gets to review it alone in a room and not take it with them, and has about a week to get back with any comments to the IG, who then decides whether or not to take them into account or not. So the fact that it's 2 weeks after it's done is about on time. I mean, I'd be concerned if it took another week or so, but right about now is about when it should be coming out, in my experience, from when the report is done to when you work through that process. And in this circumstance, there's a lot of high-powered lawyers involved. I'm sure people are billing lots of hours making objections. Hopefully,
a lot of lawyers making a lot of money here.
Exactly.
And can I say something in support of the congressman?
Yes.
I also want this report to come out as soon as possible, but I think I have different reasons. One, I think we're going to hear what Rudy Giuliani was getting in the way of information from the Southern District, from FBI agents, which allowed him to basically say before it happened that the second Comey letter was going to come out. Secondly, I think what we're going to see is that Comey, yes, acted inappropriately, but in ways that helped the Trump campaign. He sat on information about the Russian investigation about the Trump campaign and was way out there in ways that went over broke the rules both in July and in October by what he said about the Hillary email investigation. So I'm with you. I agree. I hope it comes out tomorrow.
What do you guys make of this new text? Well, it's not a new text. It's an unredacted text. And this is a text between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. Now, we learned this today because this was released as part of the 500 pages of text released by the Senate today. And here's what this looks like. It says, you'll get our OCOUNUS, Lures approved. And just so you know what that Lures is FBI lingo for spies. So the question tonight, were these spies potentially sent in to target the Trump campaign going back to December of 2015? And if so, that could be fairly explosive, could it not, Congressman? Because Jim Comey said this investigation began in July 31st to be exact, of 2016. That text, again, we'll learn more, and I know the House is kind of not exactly where the Senate is on this, but when you read that text, it certainly appears that they were looking to put more lures into the campaign in 2015. Several people are reporting this tonight. We'll learn more, I believe. But what do we think about that?
Well, that was
why did they redact that word?
Exactly.
Lures?
That was initially
it comes
redacted.
Out, it's like, oops, it says lures there. Lures, again, lingo for spies.
So the question is, why would that have been redacted? Is that referring? I mean, OCONUS obviously is a potentially foreign spy. But I think this idea that Crossfire Hurricane started this on July 31st, clearly that's not true. Because you had Comey, you had McCabe and Lynch deciding not to brief Trump in April when they were supposedly concerned about Carter Page. You had Stefan Halper reaching out to the campaign before then. So this did not just start on the 31st of July.
Comey testified in May of 2017.
And I think he has exposure as a result of that testimony.
So you're saying he
I don't think he was telling the truth there. No, I don't think that's true.
And would he have? There's any way he wouldn't have known If this is true, that it started earlier, perhaps in May, when now Bill Priestap, there's another question about him.
Priestap traveled to
Explain
London.
who Priestap is.
So he's the head of counterintelligence. Peter Strzok was his number 2. Now, Priestap basically has said Strzok was really the main guy in both the Hillary and the Russia
popular.
collusion investigations. Obviously, he wanted Hillary president. He hated Trump with a passion.
Yep.
But Priestap himself traveled to London in May of 2016. That was, again, 2 months before Crossfire Hurricane started.
And again, I'm going to disagree with the congressman a little bit here. What's twisted about this is that at the end of the day, what Strzok and Strzok, remember, drafted the Comey letter 10 days before the election. It was his idea to kind of put that out there. He's also said bad things about Bernie, about Chelsea, about Holder, in addition to Trump. The same things that Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz were saying during the campaign. The fact is that the FBI, when you look back, helped Trump by sitting on the information about him and hurt Hillary by breaking the rules and putting everything out there.
The reason why they put the letter out was not to
would have
help
been embarrassing.
Trump. It was to protect their own behind. Strzok wanted to protect his behind and Comey's behind. That's why they did it.
Well,
you're right. On July 5th, Comey should not have come out and done that. But once he came out and gave the press conference, he kind of had to do the letter. I think the letter was a mistake.
Okay, well,
Robert handled it from the beginning.
Yeah.
Robert, on this issue of the text, though,
Right.
I mean, again, we're going to learn more, but they redacted the word lures. Again, the lingo for spies. FBI is not supposed to use the word spies, but they use that word. Non-contiguous, unidentified informants. So OCONUS was there, that acronym, and then lures was redacted. Unredacted, now you see what it was saying.
Right.
That's, again, you get all our lures approved. I love the little smiley face. Couldn't they have used an actual emoji? They had to use that. And you know, it goes on.
Well, I think so much of this has to do with, I think the timeline is the most damaging thing for people here, because people are using a bureaucratic term when they say an investigation wasn't opened. Well, that means nothing if there was investigative activity going on before the investigation was opened. So even the FBI said, well, some of these contacts from our informants, slash spies occurred, leading up to the investigation. Well, there's got to be a point, it's kind of like, did God create the earth? Who created that? Who created that? Who created that? I mean, somebody has to approve.
Who approved what? When? Let me just hold on. And remember, this thing was supposed to have been begun, kind of started sort of when that list of Trump foreign policy advisors, national security advisors came out, and Carter Page and George Papadopoulos, their names were on it in the spring of 2016.
Right.
But now, if this goes back to 20knows, again, if, what were they worried about? I mean, the Strzok, they were petrified of Trump. Who knows? Maybe they thought Trump was going to catch on.
And one of the later Strzok Page texts in the fall was, POTUS wants to know everything we're doing. So what did Obama know about this, and when was he briefed on this? I don't think he was in the dark about this the whole time at all. I think Obama knew exactly what was going on.
Can we just remember that we've had whole segments on shows like this about the Strzok secret society, about the Strzok lost emails. So let's try to figure out exactly. Yeah, I agree. We need to get to the bottom of this, but to kind of, No,
I'm putting caveats in place. I agree with you, but those are technical acronyms that are used within the Bureau. Those aren't like love messages between the two of them. I mean, all those, I'm sure people are fascinated by those too, but those are technical terms. So it seems like, did you get approval for these lures?
Right.
And waiting for the answer.
But there were no spies. There was one guy who basically made a couple approaches to people that had been targeted already by the CIA and the FBI.
Well, we know that it wasn't just Carter Page. Now the report came out, Daily Caller Foundation, that also Stephen Miller was invited to that same event. What else do we know about that?
Papadopoulos, and then they reached out to Sam Clovis. And here's the thing, in the New York Times, when their big article, they said at least one person. So there is the possibility that there was more than just Stefan Halper who was trying to initiate these contacts.
July 2016, the event at University of Cambridge. It looks like they were trying to get all the nationalists like Miller. I mean, you like Russia? You come over here. Come on, Stephen Miller's really a Russian plant. But again, the timeline is important because we don't have documents, do we? We don't have a lot of documents, FBI documents.
They're refusing to produce the documents.
From that time period before July 31st.
Exactly.
That's why you're gradually getting the text.
But
let's
remember, when we heard from Papadopoulos and others that the Russians were trying to get dirt on Hillary, not one person in the Trump campaign went to the U.S. authorities. Not one. That's a little that. That's
really
a bad
think,
fact.
I mean, do you think this Papadopoulos, I mean, this character is just like he's trolling bars in London. It's like, I'm going to go back to Trump Tower and I'm going to be the cool guy because I'm going to set up a meeting with Trump. I mean, he's just like the worst person to have in a campaign. Come on.
But Alexander Downer recently in an interview, he said, I never even heard about emails. I heard dirt. I didn't hear emails.
Yeah, that was Australian ambassador.
That's right.
I think we have to have like the deck of cards in Iraq where you have all faces with every title. Guys, fantastic as always. And up next in the angle, I'm going to reveal the real reason that the Democrats' big midterm election dreams might be turning into a kind of a nightmare. Don't go away. If you're wondering whether the Democrats are on the verge of blowing what is traditionally a huge opportunity to pick up seats in the midterm election cycle, well, you may be onto something. Now, normally the party in power loses seats in the cycle following a presidential election. So Democrats thought picking up dozens of House seats was going to be pretty easy. All they needed to do was to run against Trump, nationalize the election, and the House majority would be theirs. But now they must confront or try to distract from Trump's stellar economic record. Now, they're in a difficult spot because they have to convince voters to vote against their own pocketbooks this fall. Now, that's a tough climb. But let's ask a few fundamental questions here. What's the future of the Democrat Party? And who's going to lead it? Massachusetts Democrat Congressman Seth Moulton addressed the question on MSNBC earlier today.
Who is the leader of the Democratic Party?
Who is the leader of the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
That's what she asked. She asked you that.
Does my silence say something?
Yeah.
I mean, this is this is the challenge that we have right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that people are looking at Leader Pelosi, with all due respect to her, and saying, here is the future of our party.
Pray tell, why not? Well, so who is the future of the Democratic Party? He was honest there. Let me think. California Senator Kamala Harris?
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be?
Does one of us have to come out alive?
How about New Jersey Senator Cory Booker?
Why is this so important? Why is this so disturbing for me? Why am I, frankly, seething with anger? Your silence and your amnesia is complicity.
Very angry. What about Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren?
And my Aunt Bee has walked by that picture at least 1,000 times, remarked that her father, my papa, had high cheekbones like all of the Indians do.
Or Joe Biden. Yes, I said Amtrak Joe Biden, who even now is touring the country on a book tour.
Stand up, Chuck. Let him see you. Oh, God love you. What am I talking about?
You cannot go to a 7-Eleven or a Dunkin' Donuts unless you have a slight Indian accent.
No, I wish you were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
And punch him in the mouth. Didn't you say punch him in the mouth there? We could have just done the whole show on Biden because we were in the car early and I was screaming laughing with Raymond, okay? It's just that if you're in a bad mood, watch Joe Biden on YouTube. And by the way, they told us that Trump uses violent rhetoric. Biden's always ready to punch someone out. Well, meanwhile, billionaire Starbucks founder Howard Schultz is also reportedly mulling a move into politics.
It concerns me that so many voices within the Democratic Party are going so far to the left. And I ask myself, how are we going to pay for all these things in terms of things like single payer, or people espousing the fact that the government is going to give everyone a job. And I think we've got to get away from all of these falsehoods and start talking about the truth and not false promises.
Yeah, okay, but there's only one problem for Democrats. Trump has been speaking truth and has been delivering real promises as president. Now, he's connected with the forgotten voters the Democrats now seek, and he's actually made their lives better. Trump's Real Clear Politics approval rating average is now at 44.6%. Unemployment is at its lowest level in 17 years. And the RCP Politics average on the direction of the country that the country's going in is up to nearly 40%, up from 27% 2 years ago under Obama. So all that's left for the Democrats to prattle on about are got all these side issues. Yeah, there's cable news catnip, irrelevant to the lives of most people. So do Americans really care about whether a cabinet secretary bought a used mattress at the Trump Hotel? Why did he do that, by the way? Or whether Jared Kushner got a security clearance, or the endless speculation about the whereabouts of the First Lady after surgery? Well, if you're like most people, you care about pocketbook issues, your safety, and your culture in decline, all around you and your children. All the things that Trump is fearlessly addressing and winning on. So the left gripes and moans about the only things they have left of them, which is basically the small stuff. It's meant to distract the president and lure him onto their turf. And I'm telling you, it is not working. They're going to need a new game plan if they're going to get to the two big things that the Democrats lack: a leader and an agenda. And that's the angle. Let's discuss this with Monica Crowley, senior fellow at the London Center for Policy Research, famed pollster Frank Luntz, and Chris Hahn, former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer. All right, Chris, have at it, because it's your party and you'll cry if you want to. Go ahead.
Well, look, I mean, we didn't know that Donald Trump would lead the Republican Party 2.5 years ago, and look what happened. We never knew that Barack Obama would lead the Democratic Party in the midterms in 2006, and the Democrats swept the power in 2006. The Republicans swept the power in 2010 with the Tea Party movement that had nothing to do with one individual Republican. And I truly believe that in this midterm election, you're going to see the Democrats make great waves, not because of some big national leader that they pick, but because individual candidates running races are going to show how the Trump agenda is not doing what it promised. And also, remember this, a lot of people who support Donald Trump, even if they like him right now, there's a good percentage of people who still don't trust him and want to see a Congress that will put a proper check on him. And that's what they're going to vote for in November.
Frank.
Your introduction is the best description that I have seen. You really don't need us here.
Oh, yeah, right.
What you did. Number one is Nancy Pelosi is the most unpopular politician in America today. Number two is that the Democrats cannot point to anything that they have actually done. All they've got is obstruction. And number three, with the economy as strong as it is, and I'm surprised you didn't talk about the tax cuts, because with every month, more people realize that they're keeping more money in their pockets. When you give them 3 reasons to vote Republican, all the GOP has to do is 2 things. One is get a vote on Speaker before Election Day to force the Democrats to actually cast a vote for Pelosi. And the second is one more piece of legislation, such as a job requirement for food stamps. That's the kind of thing that makes a difference.
Monica, this is what Doug Schoen, remember Doug was the pollster for Bill Clinton, and he worked tirelessly, and right after that 94 Newt Gingrich historic win, and he said this last night.
Let me say it bluntly. The Democratic Party is in a civil war between the moderates, a shrinking group that I speak for and represent in my own way, and the surging progressives who represent basically socialism and a series of policies that guarantees outcomes rather than opportunities.
I mean, is that fair? Howard Schultz sounded kind of moderate in that soundbite. I mean, he said, look, we can't keep spending all this money that we don't have. He sounded a little bit more like Bill Clinton, frankly, than he did someone like a Cory Booker or Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah, so if Howard Schultz decides to run, Laura, he's going to get run over like a Mack truck, because the Democratic Party of today is Barack Obama's Democratic Party. Barack Obama remade the party as a far-left institution. And when we talk about, does the Democratic Party have any natural leaders, given that Bill Clinton just blew himself up and Mrs. Clinton is still whining, why me? The de facto leader of the Democratic Party remains Barack Obama. It is his ideology that is guiding this party, and anybody who wants to have any success in the party has got to be a member of the radical left. That does not translate into widespread electoral success in this country. Obama was the exception to the rule. He was an extraordinary candidate. But what we have seen since then is that that coalition that he put together that won for him in 2008 and again in 12 was unique to him. Mrs. Clinton Clinton couldn't recreate it, and certainly nobody else on the Democratic side
Well, they're registering
can.
all these kids to vote. They're, they got all the gun control kids. They're out there. They're going around in a bus. I mean, they're doing all sorts of stuff. They say they have energy and mojo, and they're going to turn out to vote. Chris Matthews made some interesting comments about creeping elitism in your party. Let's watch.
A true Democrat, lowercase d, thinks they're no better than anybody else. That's what a Democrat is. And when the party regains that with white, black, Hispanic people, everybody starts to think of themselves as one of them instead of being better than them, they'll get back to the party of the people. And they're not there yet. There's too many elitisms. There's so much elitism in the Democratic Party. It's so outrageous.
Oh, it's the old bubble of the coast. Tom Wolfe, the late Tom Wolfe, said America is in the middle. The coasts are the parentheses, and that's what he's kind of talking about.
I don't disagree with that, but I think coming on right now in the Democratic Party. It's slightly to the left of where it's been. And that's going to bring a lot of energy with it, and it's going to sweep to power. And we are going to have our own Willie Gohmerts get elected this year, who people will be like, how is that person a congressperson? But that's going to happen in 2018. Watch it. It will happen.
Well, I see the people like Tester in Montana was supposed to be this big, stand up and be this big moderate force, or even Joe Manchin, Claire McCaskill, Joe Donnelly. But I mean, they're not the cool crowd in the Democrat Party. They're kind of like the ugly stepchildren of the Democrat Party. That's my sense. But you're out there polling.
I'll give you a specific. Joe Kennedy, the congressman from Massachusetts. He's a whole generation younger than Nancy Pelosi. What would happen if they put him up as leader? Or Joe Crowley from New York. The Democrats have a whole generation that are waiting to come through. Yep. She won't give up, and that is a big mistake for them. On the Senate side, Democrats had a significant opportunity to pick up as many as 3 or 4 seats. They're not going to this time. I actually think that now, if you look at the generic numbers, the Republicans are in a better position today than they've been at any time in 11 months. I'm a pessimist, but I'll tell you that the GOP is putting together the ingredients for success. What they better not do is they better not divide themselves, and they better focus on the economy if they want to bring those voters home.
You wouldn't bet on them right now, though, Frank, not even a little bit.
But look what Mitch McConnell, I know what you're about to say.
Yeah, Mitch McConnell on the recess. Monica has to get a word in here. Canceling the August recess. I've been begging them to do this for months and months and months. I think we talked about it in a couple angles ago. Monica, that's exactly. We're doing the people's business. Let the Democrats go to the beach, and we're doing whatever they're going to do.
Yes, yes, and I think he made absolutely the right move today. I just hope and pray that they follow through on it and actually do work through August, because you'll recall, Laura, that last year Senator McConnell made the same move and said we're going to work for 2 weeks through August. They didn't even last through the first Thursday of the first week. So I hope that they mean what they say on this, and that they will be there, and that they will confirm the president's nominees and get these spending bills through. And to Frank's point,
got the big
spending bill for the wall.
They're staying, but they're not staying just to confirm. They're staying to watch the president. They are very concerned about what this president may or may not do and how it will affect their elections.
No, that's not at all.
Make up a better. I understand your job is to make stuff up. Make up something more creative.
Okay. Well, look, McConnell will be on our show exclusively tomorrow night, so we're going to talk to him about all of this. Whether there could be an amnesty deal in the making, who knows? But stay right there. Fantastic panel. All of you. Love all of you. Now, we're going to have some other breaking news. Now on Bill Clinton in just a moment, when Jennifer Flowers joins me for her first interview in 6 years. Wait until you hear what she's now ready to reveal. Next. #2 era. Now, Clinton lost his cool yesterday on the Today Show while insisting he does not owe Monica Lewinsky an apology. He was flustered again last night while claiming he does not owe her a face-to-face apology.
I apologize to my family, to Monica Lewinsky and her family, and to the American people before a panel of ministers in the White House, which was widely reported.
I can barely hear him anymore. Well, tonight, Bill Clinton will have something else to explain, because Jennifer Flowers has a shocking revelation and joins us now for an exclusive interview, her first in 6 years. Jennifer, it's great to see you. I know this must have been...
Great to be with you.
It must have been wild for you to watch this over the last few days all over again. Just initial reaction to watching him? He clearly got the body language. He had the arms crossed. He was
right.
It was very angry that
Right.
this reporter asked him kind of some fairly logical questions. I would imagine.
Right. Right. Well, my first impression was he's just not as good a liar anymore as he used to be. He's not on his game where that's concerned. I think Bill is afraid. I'm advocating that Bill be prosecuted for his sex crimes, just like Harvey Weinstein has been arrested and Bill Cosby is about to be sentenced. Why not Bill Clinton? He's nervous. That's why he's acting that way. And, probably has some health problems, and it's affected his ability to respond as well as he used to be and tell lies as good as he used to.
Well, you were a young woman, 27 years old, when you first, got involved with him. He was married,
Right.
and you were not, and you started having this relationship. At some point, you've now decided that it became a non-consensual harassment relationship, which doesn't really comport with how you originally classified this. So now, how are you all these years later claiming that it was non-consensual at some point?
It's very interesting because back in 1977, when I met Bill, we didn't have the laws to protect us. We as women, I was in the workplace in a man's world. I just had to do the best that I could. When I first met Bill Clinton, it was when I was sent out on my first story by myself after my training with my cameraman. He came on to me that night. I told him to knock it off. He proceeded to continue to come on to me for 3 months before I decided that I wanted to have a relationship with him, which at that point was consensual. But in today's standards, and in hindsight, it was definitely sexual harassment. I was a little bit ashamed to admit that because, in a way, I felt guilty because I was a willing participant at a point. So I felt guilty about saying that I was sexually harassed in the beginning, but I definitely was. Absolutely.
When you say you want him prosecuted,
when
you say you want him prosecuted, Jennifer,
why not?
Not for what? Because with sexual harassment, that's a civil case. But for a criminal prosecution, you're referring to Juanita Broderick, obviously?
Absolutely, Juanita. He raped Juanita. I've met Juanita. She is a beautiful person. Like Hillary, I wanted to be in denial. I wanted to deny that these things could happen because I felt like that wasn't the person that I had known. But when I met her the first time and realized that she was a very genuine person and had no reason to lie about that, I had to come to terms with the fact that he was very capable and did do that. Why shouldn't he be prosecuted for rape as Bill Cosby has and Harvey Weinstein was just arrested? Why shouldn't he be? Why don't they arrest Hillary as a co-conspirator? Because she has allowed him. She has been the person that has let him go, and the enabler that has let him go and do what he's done to women.
By the way, we reached out to the Clinton Foundation, to Bill Clinton's personal attorney, David Kendall, about this story and about your new allegations, and we did not get a response. So we did attempt to do that.
Of course not.
Bill Clinton said this. I want to play a little snippet from Bill Clinton. This was also from this New York event last night. Let's watch.
Okay.
I support the Me Too movement, and I think it's long overdue. And I have always tried to support it in the decisions and policies that I've advanced.
He says he genuinely supports the Me Too. He supports the Me Too movement, Jennifer, and he wants people to believe him at this point.
Now that's the fourth biggest lie, and that's the fourth biggest lie. And you know some of what the others are. He would say that, of course. what would he say but that he is in support of it? He's been a huge abuser of the Me Too movement. And I would like for the Me Too movement to be so kind as to recognize myself and Paula and Juanita and Kathleen and many, many other women starting many years ago that have come out with claims of sexual harassment from Bill Clinton. They haven't given us any respect as far as I'm concerned. We're the Me Not movement. That's what we are.
Why do you think they haven't?
It just seems like that the Clintons are bulletproof, that it doesn't matter what they do, they seem to get away with things, and this would be another instance of that. He hasn't been held accountable. And
how are you doing in your life?
I don't know. That's a good question. Why?
Well,
why we've
I think
been
it's
so
political. A
ignored.
lot of people
I'd
think
like to know the answer
movement.
to that.
Yeah, I think the Me Too movement. There's a lot of good stuff going on, but sadly, a lot of it is politicized.
I agree.
A lot of it is politicized, and
Very
so people
much
like
so.
Juanita Broderick, they don't count. People like Kathleen Willey, they don't count. How are you doing, by the way? We're out of time, but how are you doing? And after all these years, you look great, by the way. But how are you doing?
Thank you. God bless you. Oh, and I love you, by the way. I'm a big fan. I'm doing fine. Getting ready to do a little reboot of my book, and I lost my mother in July of last year, so that's been a huge thing to overcome. But I'm doing good, and thank you for asking. I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, Jennifer. We really appreciate your perspective, and the Clintons, they never do seem to go away, and we appreciate it. The president, by the way, reminded the nation today, President Trump, why we stand during the national anthem. Up next, we're going to tell you the real day. The president disinvited the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday after learning that only a few players plan to attend.
We stand to honor our military and to honor our country and to remember the fallen heroes who never made it back home. We stand together for freedom. We stand together for patriotism. And we proudly stand for our glorious nation under God.
Well, we should note that Fox is reporting that no Eagles kneeled during the protest during the national anthem last year, and although some did raise fists. But today we did learn about a new timeline that suggests that the Eagles may have been trying to set the president up here. Well, Fox News chief White House correspondent John Roberts discovered the Eagles appeared to be playing games with the administration. They learned that the Eagles originally submitted more than 70 names to attend the event, mostly players. Then yesterday, they said only 2 or 3 people and a mascot in the costume would attend. Well, the Eagles even tried to reschedule for next week when the whole world knew the president's going to be in Singapore. Let's debate what's really going on here with former GOP presidential candidate Herman Cain and civil rights attorney and talk radio host Leo Terrell. All right, Herman, the Eagles did not kneel during the national anthem, which I think is a great thing. They didn't kneel. There are a lot of them who don't like President Trump, obviously. But my view is they should just come to the White House. I mean, come on. This is now ridiculous. You don't have to like everything President Trump does. It's a people's house. Fans love to see you at the White House. It's a fun event. It's not political. Your reaction?
My reaction is they were trying to embarrass the president. Everybody in the world knew that next week was focused on the summit between the USA and North Korea. To ask the president to reschedule is an oxymoron. The man is a little bit busy trying to run the country, trying to settle international affairs. So the whole thing, in my opinion, was to try and embarrass the president. I've been invited to the White House several times, and each time I go. If you invited, you go or you don't go. You don't say, could you take a rain check? That does not work.
Yeah, it's not on your schedule.
No, and it's not on your schedule. You change your schedule. He is the president of the United States, and I happen to believe that they were trying to embarrass the president, and he said, you're not going to embarrass me. You're uninvited, and he had every right to do that because he is the head of the House for the United States of America.
Leo, it sounds pretty reasonable. I mean, President Obama, I think if an entire team, basically an entire team decided and did the same little thing with President Obama, little trickaroo, I think you'd be like, come on, this is racist, this is discriminatory, this is it's classless. But with Trump, it's like, oh, yay, they're not going. Isn't this brave? Go ahead.
Hey, Laura, can I submit the following facts to you and Herman? Here's the following fact. Jerry Jones' sworn deposition, where he stated very clearly that Donald Trump told him this is the issue that he can't lose. He is using this flag issue to hijack the midterm election. You said earlier in your broadcast, Donald Trump talks about pocketbook issues. This is an issue he is playing the American public on. There is no question about it. This issue is about racial injustice. And why is he spending time worrying about the NFL? I'll tell you why. Because it resonates with people because he's hijacked this issue. Ask Jerry Jones, look at the deposition, and the problem is simply this. For him to single out the Philadelphia Eagles, who never kneel during the regular season, is outrageous. And more importantly, they're not going to the White House for a simple reason. They don't like the president. They have that right.
Classless.
That's what makes this country great.
Leo, let's just say, if you did it to President Obama, I would say the same thing. It is classless when the president of the United States invites an entire national, it's not a regional, it's a national championship team to the White House. You do what Nick Saban did with Alabama, Crimson Tide, Roll Tide. You actually, the whole team goes and they stand and they're polite and they shake the president's hand. That's what you do. Okay, so I think a lot of these players are great guys. But this was
what about the Jerry Jones statement? What about the Jerry?
Jerry Jones said if his players don't stand during the anthem, they're going to be off the team. That's what he said. Herman.
2 points. May I point out 2 points? And Leo, please don't talk over me because that's what you
I never talked over you, Herman. I never talked. Laura, that's a personal attack.
Allow me to talk, Leo.
I did not talk over you, Herman.
He didn't talk over you, Herman. I think I probably did. Go ahead.
Point number one.
Thank you, Laura.
Jerry Jones is not the president of the United States. Donald Trump is. Number two, patriotism is not an option. He's the president of the United States, and he decided you will not make patriotism an option in my house, which I am the head of for the United States of America. That's the big point here. It has nothing to do with racism.
Okay, Leo, real quick.
There you go. There you go talking over me.
Mr. Kane,
there you go talking over me.
My turn, Herman. My turn,
No,
Herman.
it's not.
He may be president. He may be president, but he's not a dictator. And just because he's the president doesn't demand.
There you are doing what I said I don't want you to do.
Laura, he
monopolized the conversation.
All right, guys.
This is what they do.
Fascinating, but we have to get to Miss America.
This is what they do.
I have to be the time dictator, but I love you both.
Please.
Miss America, next. A competition. The organization announced today in a statement, we are no longer a pageant. Miss America will represent a new generation of female leaders focused on scholarship, social impact, talent, and empowerment. But this competition will not include the swimsuit competition, with the organization stating it, quote, will no longer judge our candidates on their outward physical appearance. Well, let's debate this wisdom of these things with Madison Gestiotto, a former Miss Ohio in the Miss USA pageant. All right, now, this is wild, because if Madison outward appearance has no relevance whatsoever to this whole thing, then why don't you just do it like on the radio? Why can't it just be a radio? Right. I host a radio show, and a caller called in today and made that comment. I was screaming, laughing. I'm like, you could have just, didn't have to do the makeup, the hair, just talk.
No, they're exactly right. I'm not impressed with what Miss America organization has decided to do. And when you look in the dictionary at the actual definition of pageant, it's a beauty contest. And of course, outward beauty is not as important as inner beauty, but at the same time, it doesn't mean that outer beauty can't exist and that women should be shamed or banned.
Oh, don't you hate the phrase athleisure, by the way?
That's the point.
One of the worst. I didn't know that. It was in the 90s is when there was the bikini started. So it was like 97, I think, they started doing the bikinis, which,
yes,
the men like it, but, it's a little much on the bikini. But the one piece, I thought that was really pretty and dignified and also, sexy, attractive. But what is this about? Just as the Me Too thing, don't hate us because we're beautiful thing. I'm like, what is it? I don't even understand.
I can't even keep up with the feminist movement of Me Too when it comes to the relationship to pageants, because the first thing they were saying is that women should be empowered, able to wear whatever they want. Now all of a sudden women should not be able to wear whatever they want. I can't keep up. It's ridiculous. They're totally off base. They make no sense. And I don't think they're really making positive impact on the Me Too movement with this ridiculous.
And I also think that in a way, they're implicitly casting aspersions on people like you. Now, you were Miss Ohio in Miss USA pageant, and you just took the bar, passed the bar. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So you're going to go on and be a lawyer. And so many people who are in these pageants, competitions, go on to do incredible things.
Absolutely.
As maybe they're professional moms, maybe they're doctors, lawyers,
doctors,
but
mothers.
Just because you're attractive doesn't mean you also don't have all these other things that you want to do in life. See what I'm saying?
Exactly. It should never be mutually exclusive, and that's what I think it seems like they're trying to make it.
Is there a real rivalry between the Miss America people and the Miss USA people? I sense that.
The joke has always been, Miss America is the girl next door, Miss USA is the girl you wish lived next door.
Oh.
That's all I have to say on that. So there's definitely a rivalry still with Miss America and Miss
Madison,
USA.
you're going to be a huge success. It's great to have you on, and we'll be right back. We have Shannon Bream is up next. Have a good night.
This is a Fox News alert. We're getting results in right now.